Welcome back, students. Just we will go back and come. In module 3, we have sedimentation tank, coagulation aided sedimentation tank. This and this we have completed. And in filtration process, actually we have 5 methods. 5 methods of filtrations are there. That is a sand filtration by using a sand as a material. Then here we discussed slow sand filter, rapid sand filter, and pressure filter. Then after that, in third module only, we have another headings, that is microfiltration, ultrafiltration. And we will, after these two, we will jump to module 4. In module 4, nanofiltration and reverse osmosis filtration is there. These all filtration. Okay. In this video, we are explaining first reverse osmosis, and after that we will come back to nano, ultra and micro, so that we can complete full module 3 and half of module 4, because the syllabus is designed in such a way that if everything is added in the module 3, it becomes very heavy. Therefore, nanofiltration and reverse osmosis are brought to module 4. Now, first we will understand what all these filtration refers by taking one example, one figure here. Here raw water is there. This raw water is brought through the filtration process, and you will get at the end clean water. In filtration, the first one we will get a sand filtration, means water is brought through the sand and major particles, the particles which are more than 0.2 microns are removed. And then after that, water is brought through microfiltration, and in the microfiltration we will remove some particles like planctons, algae, turbidity, bacteria, suspended solids and all. We will remove them in microfiltration. Then after that, the same water is brought through ultrafiltration. There we will remove macromolecules, viruses, colloids we will remove. And the same water again we will brought through nanofiltration. Then we will remove large ions and all. Then again the same water is brought through reverse osmosis. In reverse osmosis, we will remove metal ions and even smaller particles, and then water will be purified, and we will get a clean water. Now we will explain one by one, but first we are considering reverse osmosis, then later we will go ahead with the nano, ultra and microfiltration. Now I will welcome Professor Sandesh Shirol, and he will explain about reverse osmosis.
Today we are going to study about reverse osmosis. In this video we will cover introduction, working of reverse osmosis, what will reverse osmosis remove from the water, important terms, RO pre-treatment and RO cleaning. So now coming on to the introduction. Reverse osmosis is a process where you demineralize or deionize water by pushing it under high pressure through a semi-permeable membrane. So it is a process where you demineralize or deionize. It means we are going to remove the salt content or the mineral content or any ions present in the water to obtain the pure water. And how we are going to do it? By pushing it under high pressure through a semi-permeable membrane. So what is semi-permeable membrane? Semi is half. It is half permeable. That is, semi-permeable membrane, it allows only certain molecules to pass through it, and it does not allow the rest of the molecules. So in this reverse osmosis, the semi-permeable membrane, it allows water molecules to pass through it, but it does not allow the other salt content to pass through it. So they are arrested. So before understanding what is reverse osmosis, we have to understand what is osmosis. Osmosis is a naturally occurring phenomenon, and it's one of the most important process in the nature. It's a process where weaker saline solution will tend to migrate to a strong saline solution. So if you have two containers, one is having less salt content and the other is having more salt content in it, the solution or the water molecules from the solution which is having less salt content will try to move to the solution which is having more salt content. Here, for example, you can see this figure. Here, this is, you can consider it as a pure water or fresh water, and this is a water with more salt content than this water. So this is a semi-permeable membrane. In this, initially assume that the water content is water level is same here, but as the osmosis starts, as the process begins, you can see the direction of water flow here. The water from the fresh water, it is having low saline content, so it tries to move through this membrane to this solution. So you can see the water level has increased here. So this is called the process of osmosis. Or any other example in the nature, you can easily observe plant roots, they absorb water from the soil by osmosis. And also our kidneys also absorb water from our blood through osmosis. So this is how osmosis works. You can watch any video in the YouTube and you will get a clear picture of what is osmosis. And a semi-permeable membrane, it is a membrane that will allow some atoms or molecules to pass but not others. It means only some are allowed, except that the other molecules will not be allowed. They are stopped before the membrane itself. For example, a screen door. A screen door, it allows only air molecules to pass through it, but any other pests or anything larger than the whole of the screen door is not allowed to pass through it. So the membrane also, semi-permeable membrane, acts in the same way. So now coming on to reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis is a process of osmosis in reverse. That is, in reverse osmosis, what happens in osmosis will exactly happen in reverse. So you can easily understand, if osmosis is naturally occurring phenomenon, then reverse osmosis is not occurring naturally. It has to be made manually, or we should do it. And in the osmosis, no energy is required as it is happening naturally. But the process of reverse osmosis, you need to apply energy to make it happen because it is not natural. So in reverse osmosis, a semi-permeable membrane is kept, and through that water is allowed to pass. But the membrane will not allow the dissolved salts or organic or any bacteria content to pass through it. So only water gets passed through it, and we need to push the water. Push the water means we have to apply pressure to the water. We have to apply pressure to the water, then only this reverse osmosis is possible. That pressure should be greater than the atmospheric pressure. The applied pressure should be greater than the osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure is the natural pressure that is existing in water. If you apply the pressure greater than the osmotic pressure, then only desalinization will take place. Desalinization means removal of salt or any mineral or ions from the water. By this desalinization, pure water will be able to get the pure water. Here there is a picture which represents the process of reverse osmosis. You can see here, this is fresh water and this is salt water. These are two different containers. They are separated by a semi-permeable membrane. Here in the salt water or the feed water, we are applying pressure. This pressure must be greater than the osmotic pressure of water. So here when we apply the pressure, the water will pass through this membrane. But since it is semi-permeable, this membrane allows only water to pass through, and the rest of the minerals, ions or the salt content is retained here itself. So here what we will get is pure water. This pure water, in this pure water, 95 to more than 95% of salt or any minerals is removed. Now we'll study about working of reverse osmosis. In the reverse osmosis, we will use a high pressure pump. In this system of reverse osmosis, let us visualize a thing. There is a semi-permeable membrane, and before the semi-permeable membrane is one zone, and after the semi-permeable membrane is another zone. Before the semi-permeable membrane will feed the raw water or the water which needs to be treated, and using this pump will increase the pressure of the raw water. that is before the semi-permeable membrane, and it is forcibly made to pass through the semi-permeable membrane and get into the after semi-permeable membrane zone. So while passing through the semi-permeable membrane, the membrane retains the other molecules other than water, such as ions or salts or any other minerals. The retention is about 95 to 99%. That is one great advantage of reverse osmosis. So another time we have to understand is feed water. Feed water is the water that we feed into the system to get the pure water. The amount of pressure we need to apply depends upon the salt concentration of the feed water. If there is more salt content in the feed water, we should apply more pressure to overcome the osmotic pressure. If the water is having less salt content, then we require less pressure. That is a fact. So to generally understand how this reverse osmosis works, we'll feed the raw water into the reverse osmosis machine. In this machine, after the water has been processed, we'll get two kinds of water. One is good water and the other is bad water. Good water is the water which we require for using, and the bad water is which we don't require. The bad water can either be discarded or it can be reused to feed into the reverse osmosis system. The water or the good water which comes out of the reverse osmosis system, it is having very least number of contaminants, as up to 99 or 95 to 99% of dissolved contaminants are removed. So it is called as permeate. Another name for permeate is product water. And the bad water, it contains more number of contaminants. The bad water contains more number of contaminants and it is called as concentrate or reject or brine. Next we'll learn about what are the things that are removed in this reverse osmosis process. Reverse osmosis, the process, it is capable of removing up to 99%. See, up to 99% it can remove the dissolved salts or any other particles like colloids, organics, bacteria, pyrogens from the feed water. But we can't rely upon the process to remove 100% of bacteria and other like viruses and all. We have to be careful. It rejects contaminants based on their size and charge. For example, if a good reverse osmosis system is present and it is running properly, it can reject or it can not accept any contaminant that has molecular weight greater than 200. If it is having molecular weight greater than 200, it is directly rejected by the system. And similarly, if the ionic charge on the contaminant is greater, then it is more likely to be rejected by the system. For example, we know that sodium is monovalent, that is Na positive, it is 1 positive, so it is having 1 charge. And calcium is divalent, it is having 2 charges, Ca 2 positive. So in this case, calcium is more likely to be rejected by the RO system and sodium is less likely to be rejected. So in compared to sodium and calcium, calcium will be easily rejected by the RO system. And that is why the gases like carbon dioxide, since it is very less, it is having very less charge, it is easily passing through the membrane. So while it is in solution, it is having less charge, so it will easily pass through the membrane, and when it mixes with the water, carbonic acid will be formed. This carbonic acid is the reason for slightly less pH value of the RO treated water. So sometimes RO treated water will feel little acidic, that is because of the formation of carbonic acid that is formed due to the dissolution of CO2, that is gas, carbon dioxide gas in water. Now we are going to study some important terms related to the reverse osmosis system. The first one is salt rejection percentage. Salt rejection, as the name suggests, it is the amount of salt rejected in the process of reverse osmosis. This is generally represented in percentage. So how this is calculated is, first initially there will be some amount of salt in the feed water, the water which we feed or which we put into the machine. And after the process has happened, we'll collect the fresh water or the pure water and we'll measure the salt content in it. And using these two salt content, we can calculate the amount of salt that has been rejected in this process. So this equation tells you how effectively the reverse osmosis semi-permeable membranes are working. If the salt rejection is more, then the semi-permeable membranes are more efficient. That is, the reverse osmosis system, it is working more. It is working more efficiently. Generally, 95 to 99% of salt rejection is expected, or that is the amount of salt rejection that will take place in a properly running reverse osmosis system. So here is a formula. Salt rejection, the higher the salt rejection, the better the system is performing. So if the system rejects salt in more content, that is if the salt rejection percent is more, the system is very good. And if there is salt content, salt rejection is very less, then the membranes are either damaged or they require cleaning. So we have to understand this and take care of the membranes. Next one is salt passage. So it is the opposite of salt rejection. Salt rejection is the amount of salt that has been rejected, but salt passage is the amount of salt that has been passed through the membrane. That is, as the formula suggests, it is 1 minus salt rejection. That is, if in 100% the salt rejection is 85%, then the salt that has passed is 15. So salt passage percentage is 15%. It is simply the inverse of salt rejection described in the previous equation. In the previous equation, we have seen what is salt rejection. Now salt passage is inverse. Inverse means not 1 by salt percentage, salt rejection. Inverse in the sense 1 minus. Like in 100%, if 85% is salt rejection, the obviously 15% is salt that has been passed. So the formula is salt passage is equal to 1 minus salt rejection. Next one is recovery. Recovery percentage. Percentage recovery means the amount of water that has been recovered. For the example, you can take, now we have fed raw water into the system and we are not exactly going to get the same amount of water as fresh or pure water. There will be some amount of wastage. So how much water we have recovered, that is called as a recovery percentage. So it is the amount of water that is collected as fresh water, that is called as recovery percentage. And if we have more recovery percentage, that is very good. It indicates that the system of the reverse osmosis system is working in a efficient way. But however, if it is too high, if the recovery percent is too high, then there may be problems of scaling and fouling. Scaling is a formation of scales and fouling is a formation of bad odor or the foul smell. So if the recovery percentage is too high, that is also very risky. So the formula to calculate the percentage recovery is given here. So for example, if the recovery rate is 75%, it means that out of 100%, 75% of water we have recovered and 25% has gone as waste. And to understand it very easily, if we are given 100 gallons of feed water in the RO system, we are recovering 75 gallons as usable water, that is permeate. The technical term for that water is permeate. And 25 water is going as concentrate, that is waste. Concentrate is the technical term for waste or the bad water. Usually the industrial RO systems, they run between 50 to 85% recovery rate. That is, they recover about 50 to 85% of the water that has been fed into their system. Next one is concentration factor. Concentration factor is directly related to the recovery percentage. See, when we recover more amount of water as permeate or as usable water, more salt concentration is expected in the raw water side, because we have used the water, we have completely we have taken we have recovered more amount of water. So in the raw water side there will be less amount of water left, but the salt concentration will be very high, so the concentration will be very high. So the formula to calculate concentration factor is equal to 1 by 1 minus recovery percentage. Next one is flux. Flux, it is related to the membrane, that is the semi-permeable membrane. Flux of a semi-permeable membrane, it is the amount of permeate, that is the fresh water or the pure water that is obtained. So flux is the amount of permeate produced per unit area of the membrane per unit time. Here you can see flux formula is permeate in GPM. GPM is gallons per minute. The amount of permeate we are getting in terms of gallons per minute into 1440 minutes per day. That is, this 1440 how we are getting is 24 hours into 1 hour is having 60 minutes. So in one day we'll have 1440 minutes divided by the area of the membrane surface. Here they have given an example. You can understand this. If the RO system is producing 75 gallons per minute of permeates and we have 3 RO vessels, so the permeate in GPM is 75 and we have 3 RO vessels, so the number of RO elements, we'll read it further. We have 3 RO vessels, each vessel has 6 RO membranes, so the total number of RO membranes present is 6 into 3. In each vessel there are 6 membranes, but we have 3 vessels, so 6 into 3 we have this 18 RO elements. And the type of membrane we have is BW365. This 365 represents the area in feet square, so 365. This is going to give us 16 flux. The flux is 16 GFD. The unit usually we measure it in GFD, that is gallons per square foot per day. This is how we will measure the flux. Next one is mass balance. This mass balance, it is a equation. It is used to help us determine if the flow and quality instrumentation is properly reading or if it requires calibration. Mass balance equation, we have to balance the masses in the left hand side and the right hand side. For this, these data has to be collected, that is feed flow, the amount of feed water we are putting, and permeate flow, the amount of fresh water or the pure water that we are getting. Concentrate flow is the amount of water that has been generated as waste. And feed conductivity, the conductivity of the feed water or the raw water, and the conductivity of the permeate water or the pure water, and the concentrate conductivity of the wastewater that we have generated. So for this equation, there is a equation you can see here. In this equation, the mass balance equation is equal to feed flow into feed conductivity. This equation generally it can be written as feed flow equal to permeate flow plus concentration flow. So here we are going to feed the water, that is before the reverse osmosis process. So in the LHS we have feed flow. Out of this feed flow we are going to get two kinds of water. One is the permeate water or just the permeate, and the other is concentrate. So the only two things we are going to get from feed is permeate and concentrate. So the amount of salt or the mass in this should be equal to the total mass of the permeate and the concentrate. So in general, we can write it as feed flow should be equal to permeate flow plus concentrate flow. Now we will study about RO pre-treatment. That is, before feeding the water into reverse osmosis system, it has to be treated so that the amount of fouling and scaling will reduce. And also it is done to reduce the premature RO membrane failure. That is, premature in the sense before the expected time. There is a lifespan for any membrane, or it is expected to perform for efficiently for a certain period of time. But due to this fouling and scaling and some other factors, it may rupture or it may fail to perform its function. So to avoid that, because it is very costly to replace the RO membrane and also to clean it, so to avoid that, we have to treat the water before feeding it into the RO system. If we don't treat the water before feeding into the RO system, some problems arise because of that, and we are going to study that now. If the raw water that is being fed into the reverse osmosis system is not pre-treated, then there are chances of occurrence of fouling. Fouling occurs when contaminants accumulate on the member surface. Because of this accumulation of contaminants, the member is plugged effectively, in the sense the water is not able to pass through the membrane, because we all know that membrane has very minute pores, and because of this accumulation of the contaminants, the pores are blocked. So because of this, the membrane gets plugged or fouled. We usually use the municipality water for treating the water and getting the pure water, but there are many contaminants in the feed water of municipality water which we cannot see, which the human eye cannot see, but they are very harmful. It is not harmless, it is harmful. They are harmful for the human consumption, and they're large enough to cause the foul, but they're not visible to the human eye. So fouling typically occurs in the front end of the RO system, that is before the semi-permeable membrane, because it cannot pass through the membrane. It will block the membrane, it will block the pores of the membrane, so water will not be able to pass effectively through the membrane. It results in a high pressure drop across the RO system, and that results in a low permeate flow. That is, the amount of fresh or the pure water we will be getting will reduce. So this will increase the operating costs, and we will eventually have the need to clean or replace the RO membranes. So however small size the RO membrane is, or the pore size of the small RO membrane, if it is too small, then also fouling will take place in eventually due to continuous accumulation. So no matter how effective our pre-treatment is, the fouling will take place. But however, we can reduce the amount of fouling, we can reduce the amount of contamination that is getting accumulated by properly treating the water that is being fed into the system. Fouling is caused by the following. Now we will discuss about RO cleaning. So however perfect the RO system is, it has to be cleaned some or the other time. So we cannot avoid the cleaning of RO system. Generally, 1 to 4 times in a year, the RO systems are cleaned, and that depends on the quality of the feed water. If the feed water quality is very good, then it requires less periodic cleaning of the system. If the quality of feed water is very just like average, then it requires more cleaning per year. So the general cleaning period is 1 to 4 times in a year. And as a general rule, we are going to clean the RO system if the salt passage has increased by 15%. So we will be feeding the water and we will be collecting the fresh water and we will be measuring the salt content in it. When we observe that the salt content or the salt passage has increased by 15% compared to the original salt passage of the first initial water we had obtained, then we are going to clean the RO system. The RO system can be cleaned or the RO membranes can be cleaned in two ways. That is, one, it can be cleaned in the place itself where the RO system is there, or another way is to take out the RO membranes from the system and clean them separately in a company which is having special expertise in this service. So this is about the reverse osmosis process, and thank you.